Good, how are you?
Address? please?
My address is 135 Thompson Lane, number 57. That's the DA Harbor River Resort. I currently stay there. Myself, along with quite a few others, have come in here tonight because there is an issue, misunderstanding, I hope, about whether or not we're allowed to stay. We're really confused right now. We have absolutely no idea what happened that the township wants for us to leave what we understood to be a place we could stay all year. I'm calling it a misunderstanding because we believe it is. I tried to call to have a meeting. I requested a private meeting. I didn't get that. I really felt that this was a discussion that we should have had to come to an understanding, try and understand how 40-plus people are going to be without a home because of a misunderstanding. I don't know what else to say. I feel ill at ease that I actually have to explain why this is a bad thing. This ordinance that exists was an ordinance that many people for up to 17, 18 years weren't aware of. What happened? When I tried to reach out to get some general questions answered, I was told I should have done my due diligence. Reputable realtors sold places in here and said we could stay there year-round. We didn't understand. There was only so much that we could do. We asked the right questions. I can speak for myself. We spoke with people who've been there almost 18 years. And now we feel as though we're being told we have to go somewhere and sorry. We're not your enemy. We've just been misled. And we just want to work out some type of solution that's reasonable and rational. We're not asking to change anything that can't be modified. We're talking about an ordinance that we weren't aware of. And we'd like to have some type of dialogue with you and come to some type of conclusion that doesn't put over 45 people on the street come November 1st. We're law-abiding. We found out about a lot of this through the township committee minutes. We didn't even know we needed to defend ourselves from that. I don't know what to ask for. I'm obviously angry. I'm confused. I'm scared. So is everybody else who's standing in this room. I'm here to ask you one more time, will you please meet with me? Will you please help us to come to a resolve that's not only amicable but fair? I really wish we could have just talked about this, and I didn't know what else to do to get your attention. We were misled, and I think that there were a lot of mistakes made on a lot of parts. I think that should be up for discussion. I don't think it should be up for public discussion. We want to work with you. We don't want to cause any grief. I mean, even when we read some of the things that were in the minutes dating back to February and April, we don't even know where these complaints are coming from. And we're confused as to whether or not these complaints spawned all of this. I feel as though without coming here and standing up, this matter looks extremely black and white when it's not. It's gray. And you know, we're asked every day by the government, local, federal, to be understanding of gray areas. And we as the public are asking you, can we talk about this gray area? Can we talk about something and come to an amicable resolve?
I don't have any problem talking about it, and I've talked with some residents out there that have called. I'll defer to our solicitor about the ordinance, how long it's been in existence, and why it's the way it is, and that it's it's not new, this is not brand new, like you said to yourself, it's been 18 years. That's a seasonal campground. Okay, now, what realtors, reputable realtors are not told you or didn't tell you, that's not what our ordinance says about the use of that property. Mr. Freeman, or?
Thank you, Mayor.
I just, because there's litigation, I'd let Mr. Freeman, our solicitor, respond to your questions.
How do you do? As the mayor says, I think that a dialogue after tonight's meeting would be in order, and we'd be happy to meet with you. I can tell you that the premise where the township is coming from is that the property there has been always zoned and has always had use as a campground, which is a seasonal use. It's fashioned after a state statute that calls for seasonal use, so it's not as if the township has gone out of its way to create an ordinance to make it more onerous to live in a campground. As a matter of fact, our ordinance is a little bit more lenient than the state statute. State statute basically calls for it to be open just for the season, which would expire in November. But the township amended its ordinance in 1994, essentially allowed the occupancy to continue on weekends and during certain holidays during the off season. So when you talk about being misled, have no doubt about it, there's no misleading on the part of the township. It's been on the books for a long time. So whoever told you or whoever made statements that you relied upon, it's nobody to do with the township government. It's to do with the people that you were in contact with at the time that you purchased it, and the people who perhaps were in charge of the facility during the time you were there. Now, the owner's attorney is right here in the audience. That's where the dialogue or the misunderstanding needs to really be rectified, quite frankly.
I guess where the confusion comes in, when was this enforced? How were people supposed to know if it was never enforced?
Well, the township has many ordinances on the books, and those ordinances are, the township doesn't go looking for problems. The township doesn't look to see where we could issue violations or make life difficult for people. In Egg Harbor Township, our governing body is really triggered by complaints. Somebody says, this person, my neighbor's not taking care of their lawn. This one is leaving debris around their house. And we had a complaint that was brought to our attention last, I guess, 3, 4, 5 months ago, that there were tenants that were occupying the property on a full-time basis. And it creates a whole array of issues for the township in the fact that there are full-time residents living there without paying any real estate taxes, getting the benefit of municipal services, perhaps attending schools.
This is disturbing because, again, it's we find all this out within the township minutes.
Could I interject one thing?
Sure.
Tomorrow?
Please.
This is the owner of this property has been in court with the township on several occasions over allowing winter residency there. In 2006 or 2007, he signed a order with the court where he agreed that he would make sure every one of his tenants know the township regulations, and he was required to provide you with an annual copy which said that you can't be there between that period of time. He did it for a while, then he stopped doing it. He was in court this spring, and he was reminded that he wasn't doing that, so that's why you all received your notices in the last 6 weeks, is that he paid a fine in here for allowing you people to live there during the winter.
So this ruling was in 2008?
No, this ruling is a result of an ordinance.
No, but I mean,
took
the
him to
ruling you,
court.
no, the
We
ruling
were-
you're referencing was in two thousand.
We were in court with them
We took him to court.
10 years later.
We took him to court in the early nineties.
Twice.
Because he attempted to have year-round residency in a campground, and he agreed he wouldn't do it. In 1994, we made the amendments at Mr. St. James's request because he was sold people units, homes there. And he said, these people, they made this investment, so the Township Committee in 1994 said, you can be there on weekends in the off-season, and we gave you 5 holidays to be in. We discovered in 2006 that he was violating that. We took him to Superior Court for that violation. As a result of that violation, he signed an agreement with the township saying he would not permit any year-round residency in the park, and he would provide annual notice to whoever's at the park that they're not allowed to be there. Somewhere along the way, he stopped doing that, and then this year, back in November, we started getting complaints from neighbors on Thompson Lane that there are people in there, you know, a lot of people in there. We found 19 people living there year-round. We cited the owner for those 19 violations. He came to court, admitted he had people violating our ordinance living in there, and agreed that he would be in compliance with our ordinance from that day forward. So he left here, and whether he or his attorney sent notices to everybody that here's a copy of the township code, you're not allowed to be here full-time after November 1. So that is why Mr. Friedman implied that your relief may be with the attorney who represents Mr. St. James and not with the 5 people sitting here.
Oh, no, and you know, I'm a firm believer in starting at the top with things, and I do apologize if I've taken the wrong path. I guess, you know, I just gotta leave you with this. I can't speak for everybody else in here, but I guess what's most concerning about what you just shared is if this occurred a decade ago, why didn't anybody follow up?
Okay, I don't send a police officer every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to go check on if somebody's sleeping in the campground.
You do if you know they're doing something illegal.
Sir, can I ask a
Wait a minute,
question?
one at a time, one at a time.
I know, I mean, I just wanted to pose the question, and I would very much
As
like
Mr.
to have a dialogue outside of the public.
As
about
Mr.
this.
Friedman said, it's a complaint-driven thing, so no one on Thompson Lane was complaining. Our police officer probably goes down Thompson Lane once every other week or so, or when there's a call for service. And they have the owner has a full-time manager on the premises who is supposed to be enforcing the township ordinance as a licensed campground. And it appears that person wasn't doing their job to enforce it and tell you people. So there's a lot of responsibility on the owner of the campground, their management people, to lead you to believe that you could be there full-time 12 months a year.
I'll leave you with this. I believe I've left my number before. I would very much like to discuss this in private because I really think there's an awful lot to this. And I just think that responsibility falls in more than one party's lap in this. I've managed people before. I can't imagine what it's like to manage a township, but I've managed people before, and whenever they've misbehaved or done something wrong or even created somewhat of a short history of doing things maybe not the right way, I would tend to follow up and make sure that it wasn't happening again. But that's just my opinion. I just feel like this matter requires a much longer conversation than something in private, and I would truly appreciate if we could come to some type of result. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Anyone else? This young lady was, okay, hold on.
I would just like to know if there's any way.
I just don't want you to repeat yourself. We know the problem, we know your problem.
Yes.
Your name?
Is Kathleen, and I also live at Harbor River Resort.
Okay.
And I would just like to know, I mean, if this is all falling on Mr. St. James, that he was the one telling us we could live there and we actually weren't supposed to be there. Is there any way that the township would grandfather us in, who are already residing there, who have our homes there? I mean, because if we have to leave, all our homes are sitting there, we're not gonna be able to sell them right away, and we can't afford to live in 2 separate properties. Is there any way that the township would consider grandfathering us in And then, I mean, if we have to go, let us sell our homes for what we feel they're valued for and let us go. But until then, could we just live there and anyone else coming in would be told that they could not live there full time? Because I know there's some counties that have done that. I don't know if you guys can or not, but we just think about it.
Mr. St. James's attorney had approached me on a number of occasions, both before and after the matter went to municipal court, indicated that she wanted to sit down and talk with me about the situation. We are not unsympathetic towards the plight of residents, of the people who are residing and your neighbors in that particular facility. There are other campgrounds that are in the township, so there are other considerations that this governing body must consider in looking out for all of its citizens. But despite her asking to sit down and my acceptance of that invitation, I haven't heard boo from her. So I'm very interested to hear as to what communications you may have had with the owners. The township is without any document.
I'm not really being told anything, sir.
Okay, well, I haven't seen one stitch of documentation. I don't know what your sales agreements say, what your leasing agreements say, and to tell you the truth, it's a private matter between yourselves and the owner of the campground. It is a legal matter. My suggestion is that you consider getting legal counsel involved in this matter sooner rather than later.
Understood?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, sir?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Christos Angeles. I live at Egg Harbor Timber Resort. I've been here for close to 16 years. When I bought the place, the park manager at the time that was there said, yes, I could live there year round. I was going through a divorce. We had just bought the house prior to the divorce, so that wound up being my permanent residence. And my son and I live there year round. And as you said, we don't pay taxes, but there is no service that we get. Our snow removal is done within the park, not the township. Our trash removal is done by a private company, not the township. So I don't see how we're using free taxpayers' money just to live there.
My answer to that is that if you have a problem and you call the police, municipal police will come to your home.
Exactly.
If you have a fire, the fire department will come to your home. So maybe you haven't had to utilize the services, but the services are available to you.
I understand.
You do drive on our municipal streets, and you could use our municipal parks if you choose, or the library system. So there's a lot of municipal services that are available to you, whether you use them or not. That's your choice, like any other taxpayer would have that same choice to go to the library, the park, or drive on public roadways. Taxpayers, maintain all those things.
Yeah, but we pay our taxes to support those things, whether we're going to go purchase something or we're going to go invest in something. Those taxes do get paid.
But they don't come to the township, sir.
We shop at the township.
We shop at the township, so we
Well, we pay a lot of money.
We don't get that tax.
Well, and
No,
I'm
it's
I'm
okay.
just saying,
It's
I'm
the
against the
house
thing.
here in taxes.
I need double dip replacement, and I got back,
One at a time,
very
please.
I need back surgery on my lower back, and you're asking me to go find a house. I'm on disability. Where can I get to live somewhere for 4 months? I have nowhere to go. And November 1st, you're asking me to go, out on the street. You're telling me you can have your Thanksgiving in November, your homes. Where am I gonna go and have that? There's nowhere I can have that. And I really appreciate if you sat down and just looked at our faces, not, a piece of paper that just says Egg Harbor River Resort. Look at our faces as I look at yours and say, please help us. All we're asking is just to stay in our home. Thank you for your time.
Okay, anyone else?